This teaching started out 15 years ago online. Anyway, it was going on before that, but online it was about 15 years ago, and it was the idea was of the teaching. I taught the only thing I could because that's what came, but there certainly has what's uh, available, we could say, has certainly expanded since then. The teaching has not, certainly the teaching has changed a great deal, but it still has not taken on the fullness that is available now. But I do like to, and the reason is that um, the idea behind this teaching has always been I had my choice. And was I more interested in accuracy, in truthfulness, or was I more interested in how I could help? And it seemed that for a long time, pardon, it seemed for a long time that those were mutually exclusive. And in my feeling is that that's no longer the case. So I will be. It will sometimes still be the case. I'll still be teaching from both the semi-relative and or the semi absolute viewpoint, but maybe a little less of the relative. And and frankly, it's because it's getting a little harder and harder to not teach from that place. When I was in AA, I taught non-duality for like 5 years or 6 years in there, and I was the guy to go to. I was the 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 preacher of the room. Probably is the way they looked at it. And then, but I taught non-duality, but I did it through using AA language, and then um, they got to a point where I just couldn't do that anymore, and so I went just teaching the truth in the way that I have been doing so for years, and pretty much, except for I didn't have as much to share by any means, but um, it it shocked them, and they just thought I had lost my marbles, and I went from being the go-to guy to being the who the hell is that guy, and which was fine. Betsy left prior to me, and then um, once my foundation uh, left, I found out I didn't have much to say in that room either, so or those rooms. So I left it, but I still work with. Interestingly enough, because of my history, I still work with alcoholics and addicts all over the world. They have an affinity toward me, and I certainly understand why. And I love working with them uh, in a special sort of way because I thought that was my problem. Or well, actually, I didn't think alcoholism was my problem for a couple of decades, and or more than that, really. And then finally, I had to acknowledge the truth, and now I'm here to acknowledge a different truth. And uh, what I acknowledged was that what I'm acknowledging now is simply this turn in the road, and we're not going to go way off, but we're going to I'm going to feel more free to speak a little more truthful, and hopefully with the group that we have here now, that it's going to be language that you're going to be able to follow perfectly too. So we have only one concern, one worry, one problem in the whole world. Every problem that you have ever had and every problem that you ever will have will result from, perhaps it will feel indirect, but it will arise from misidentification. It will arise because we believe that we are these bodies instead of that which uh, both inhabits the bodies and is outside the bodies and is the bodies itself, because there's just one thing going on, and there's just wholeness, and it's undividable. There's no separation of any kind anywhere. When I talk about a can, I'm talking about awakeness dressed up as a can. And we should be clear that when I use the word awakeness, I don't know what I'm talking about. That awakeness is a code word that I started years ago because I didn't care about. I felt like people knew a little bit too much about awakening awareness, and therefore they didn't really hear the message. And so I started using the awakeness, and it still catches people by surprise, which is good. That's the way we want to be caught, is by surprise, because that's the authentic thing. It has to the truth has to come by surprise. It can't come because somebody figured it out. It cannot come because somebody put it all together. There's nothing to put together because there's nothing that's apart. There's this, there's just this, there's only this, and I don't know what this is. And what just said that is this. This does not know what it is, and it doesn't care. It confuses its identity all the time with human beings, and I don't know with what else, but maybe many races and many planets or whatever, I don't know. But on this planet, it confuses itself thoroughly with human beings, and perhaps partially as other mammals, or not even just mammals. I mean, the octopus is pretty conscious, pretty aware, consciously aware. So we didn't pick this misidentification. It was not only given to us, it was foisted on us. And we were, in the most polite sort of way, and we were brainwashed. We were brainwashed before we even knew there was such a thing as a brain. When we were still, most of us were born in hospitals, and before we ever left the hospital, the cycle had begun. The cycle of re-identification had begun. And we were taught that first thing that we didn't understand this at first was that, and it wasn't true once we did understand it, but at least we began to identify as a body. But that took a long time. I have a fantasy that I can remember when that noticing first occurred, but I can't really know what's a true memory and what's a false memory. If it's memory, which means in some regard it's all false, because there's only now. So when I talk about that you were not born with this, I have to start that out with, and correct it by saying you were never born, period. And the bodies appear to be born, and we certainly all appear to be here. And there is a sense of being, and there's a sense of there's a sense of identification, light identification with this body, and I don't think that's ever going to stop until the body conks out. And what happens then, I don't know. I'm not dead, but I have a real good idea, which is the fact that Fred was not born means that it's very unlikely that Fred comes back. there never was a Fred, but that was the indoctrination, was that I was this, and that this was a Fred. And that became so strong that in 24 years of seeking, the thing that I needed to give up, that I not only wouldn't give up, I simply couldn't, because there was nothing to give up. There was a case of misidentification. I kept waiting for Fred to wake up. I kept waiting for Fred, the impediment, to cease being an impediment, for Fred to finally get the non-dual message. But the non-dual message is pretty simple. This is it. And there's no Fred to get that, because there can't be it or this and someone to understand this. There's just this, and it's not understood. But not understood by itself. Speaking as a awakeness for a moment, I don't know what I am. And that's what doesn't care. The body, we could say, doesn't mind what's going on, as in general, but it does care, because there are feelings here that go along with being a human being, or at least being an apparent human being, having an apparent separate life, with an apparent fabulous wife, and a pair of fabulous dogs that I am truly very much in love with, but I am in love with them because they are really myself. There's less and less even human separation between Betsy and I now, in that sense of we can finish sentences. We'll have ideas simultaneously. She'll know that I'm intuitively, whether I'm doing okay or not. It's the separation that is apparent between these two is just rapidly disappearing. I don't think it's ever going to disappear. I don't want it to, in the sense that I enjoy Betsy's humanity very much, and I enjoy my dog's apparent separation as well. But that doesn't mean that I think there's really, that I really have a wife. I can't have a wife because I'm, for lack of a better term, and I don't even know what this really means, but I'll say divinity, because it's a term that we've used for millennia, and it will continue to use it in whatever languages and cultures it was used in, and still is. And wholeness has no friends, but wholeness has many, many lovers, we could say, because everyone that I'm speaking to now already loves me, and some of you understand that, and some of you don't. But you cannot help but love me, but I'm not talking about Fred. The unit it doesn't, I don't know how much love and loyalty there is for the unit, but for yourself, which is what's talking. You are talking to yourself right now, and you have a lot of wisdom to share. But the most primary wisdom to share, that dwarfs any other kind of wisdom that might come up, is the knowledge of your true identity. And the reason that we find it so hard to come to realize who we are is that we don't know what we are. I could say in one way, I know who I am, in the sense of, if we want to call it divinity, that would be fair, but that's who you are. We are the very same thing. We're not two peas in a pod. We're one pea in one pod. And it looks like we're a world of peas, but we're not. There's just one thing, and you're it. This is your expression, which you seem to enjoy a great deal, and the unit seems to enjoy and then suffer because the unit believes it's a unit, believes it's a personality and not just a body, believes it's a separate thing, because our relative experience is that it is a separate thing, but there's no such thing as a separate thing. There's this which cannot be understood, and there is that which is prior and beyond this, and that cannot be understood because it cannot be understood. It cannot even be spoken about directly. And it's something that we talk about a lot, but I don't know. But we talk about it like we know what awakeness, what my reference to awakeness or divinity or God or whatever word you use or phrase that you use to indicate that. As the doctor said, I am that. And that's the that he was talking about. It has to be, because there's only one. There's no this and that. There's only this. And it was this that he was talking about when he said, I am that. The bodies seem to have, the dream is, that you're a body. You're having a dream. You're having a dream, which is the complexity is unimaginable. It is unimaginable because there's only wholeness and it can't imagine itself. There's no way, and much less for an individual to believe they can understand the, the cosmic world. There's really no cosmic world. There's really no world at all, but we got to use language to talk here. So I'll continue to use some language that is inaccurate and irrelevant, and I'll point that out sometimes, and I'll just use it other times, and expect you to follow. And this group should be able to follow just about anything that's said here. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't that I say everything clearly. It's not that. And so sometimes when you don't hear me, it's because we're depending on language in it, and we're not native language users. And we were not born with language. And when we're not born with language, that's the reason that our initial experiencing as fledgling human beings was of the one thing, the wholeness, the oneness, this. A lot of this, but no particulars. We believe that there is a world, and we believe that we're in it. Until we don't. And we believe that we are of it until we don't. And this is not supplemented with a new kind of knowledge. It's not really knowledge of that sort. It's knowing. It's just knowing. But it's not knowing our true identity, because it can't be known. It can't be spoken of. It can't even be very well pointed to, but we do our best. Teachers do our best, and you do your best, and to be as accurate as we can.